Welcome back, family, to another phenomenal episode of It's Negotiable Podcast, where we talk about all things negotiable and non-negotiable, setting boundaries of people, places, and things that do not serve God's purpose for your life. Because of your obedience, you understand that compromise is part of purpose. I am your co-host, Ernestine Morrison.
And I am your co-host, Amber Ty.
And we are joined by Miss Ayasia Sweeting again. If you tuned in to part 1 and part 2 of her phenomenal story, we had to sit down with her. And I don't even think that I was even prepared for how layered your story was and still is. And so during part 1 and part 2, many people had so many follow-up questions and comments, concerns, and they wanted you back. So Ayasia was gracious enough to lend her time again to answer any questions live that you all had. And we really wanted to make sure we gave her the space to tell her story completely and answer questions for you all. So Ayasia, welcome back.
Yes. Thank you guys so much for having me back. Thank you all for wanting me back.
Yes.
And very happy to be here and experienced a lot of awakenings and gratitude moments since we were last here.
That's really?
Awesome. Yes.
Before we dive into it, I just want to thank my friend, Ms. Jewel Young of Flesh Skin Studio.
Yes.
Ayasia would not be here if it wasn't for my friend Jewel. She told me about your story, and I just want to say thank you.
Thank you, Jewel.
Thank you, Jewel.
Yes.
But sorry, go ahead. So you
love her so much. I actually have to go back to see her again.
She is amazing, right? Flesh Skin Studio, y'all. She does amazing with skin.
Very, very amazing.
So how have you felt since the pod? Have you watched the episodes? Did you read the comments? Did you get any influx of questions, or what's been your experience since the podcast aired?
Yes. So I did get a very overwhelming response of people just reaching out and sending their loves, sending encouragement. I want to thank you all for that. It's lifted me. It's just empowered me because I've been going through a lot, in my personal life. So I'm very gratitude filled because of that. And I'm actually, because of the overwhelming response, I'm really strongly considering just starting my own YouTube channel so that people can see my everyday life. Yes, so definitely feeling inspired to, get more of my story and my life out there for people to follow my journey.
Right.
So thank you guys.
To know, for sure. They really want to know your journey. They want to know how you overcame, where you are now, what's going on. And that's really why we decided to do this again.
Yeah.
They want more.
They want more. They want more. And for those of you who are just joining Amber's live or my live, Ayasia's live, if you're not familiar, I'll just give you a quick summary, because there's really no way to sum this up. But Ayasia was kidnapped at the age of 16 and was 17.
Yes.
Was at the age of 17 and held hostage for 4 years as a sex slave, and had to have 2 unassisted births in an extended stay hotel right here in Gwinnett, Georgia. So that is, to sum it up, that is what happened to you. That was your experience, and she was gracious enough to share her story with us. And you're so strong.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We're just grateful that you came and allowed us to tell your story. Yeah. So we'll just get right into some questions, if you don't mind, because there were so many questions on the YouTube.
Right.
People want to know what happened to the father and the son.
And for reference, those are the people who actually kidnapped you, for those who don't know the story yet. But go ahead.
Right. So the father is currently serving a life sentence in prison. And his charges were not a full reference of all of the abuses and traumas that actually took place. So he is serving life, but in the state of Georgia, life with the plea deal that he was able to get is only 30 years. So it's a 30-year sentence and the possibility of parole.
Oh, my gosh.
Wow.
Yeah.
And is there a way that you can fight that?
Yes, there is. When he goes before the parole board in about 30 years, I will be called back to give my point of view in terms of whether he should or should not be released.
Wow.
His daughter is in jail as well.
Absolutely.
But she was also a victim, correct or no?
That's true.
So tell me why she's in jail and what.
Wait, sorry. Let's just stay. I want to stay on track with the two questions first. It was the son. It was the father and the son. So what happened with the son?
The son is out there somewhere.
Nothing just happened to him. He didn't
no
go to jail,
charges.
no charges.
Right.
Wow.
What I was told by the prosecutor once I was rescued was that they had no proof that the son was ever in the room, which is another layer of complication to, why I say I feel that there were so many systems that failed me, because in the state of Georgia, when there is a homicide or when someone dies in a place, there's supposed to be a full-on investigation and forensic investigation of that place. And so if that was done, there would have been definitely all types of evidence that he lived there, he was there,
Wow. Yeah.
Should we,
Let me just take a break. Yeah.
Yep.
The live.
Sure.
The live.
We want to just make sure that our viewers on Instagram can also tune in. So we're just going to check this little technical difficulty.
Not sure what happened.
Hey, Jean, will you also check mine? I'm not sure if I'm connected to Wi-Fi, so that could be.
It might be a Wi-Fi thing.
Could be, yeah.
Oh.
Yep, you're on.
Thank you
The
guys
suspense.
who are. I know.
I'm back live.
Thank you all
Okay.
who are on YouTube watching. Thank you for your patience. We just want to make sure that we give everyone this story and that everyone has the opportunity to hear and get their questions answered. So we appreciate you being patient with us. Technology, right?
Right.
It's a blessing and a curse.
Yes. It's definitely a learning curve, that's for sure.
So,
Where's the mute on here?
well, did you join Ernestine's?
I sent it.
Yeah, I accepted it. I think it's just taking a little minute for some reason.
Okay, well, then maybe have Ernestine mute hers.
This kind of reminds me of Alicia Keys' Tiny Desk concert.
Oh, yeah.
When she was like, I'm also my own tech.
That's so funny.
So that's you guys too. Y'all are awesome.
Right.
You're also your own tech
Our
secretly.
own tech. Thank you guys for coming back in. I had a little technical difficulty. We want to make sure that we get this story so that Aisha gets to tell her side and everything that she's gone through, and that if there's some questions out there that you guys have the opportunity to ask your questions.
Awesome. We are back.
Okay.
Yay.
If everyone can just project.
Yes.
The mics are one thing, but then there's also the phone, so we
Yeah.
can project.
Oh, yes, of course.
So I want to make sure everybody hears you, and you get the full floor to tell this story. All right, we're back, guys. Thank you. Continue, Am.
Yeah, so you were just saying about the son, that the police said that there was no evidence of him being in the room.
Well, yes, that the prosecutor said that they were not able to bring charges because they could not prove that he was in the room. And so very baffling for me. I felt very gaslighted because he's just out there somewhere, and I don't know if he is doing the same thing to other women,
And
other girls.
you had mentioned that he was possibly a victim himself.
Right, that's true. At the time that he was grooming me and interacting with me, he was on the missing and exploited children's list.
Yeah.
So he was an actively missing child himself
That was being
that was also being groomed. And so it just reminds me every day that, unfinished traumas are out there, and you can interact with people dealing with those. And it's so important to be able to separate, what your path and purpose is,
Sure.
right, from someone else's path and purpose, because they could be living out their own nightmare as well.
Yeah.
So when the police officers came the day that you were rescued, he wasn't present in the room.
He was not in the room, and yet you had asked about the daughter, she was in the room. So she was arrested
And what is
upon them entering the room.
what is she serving now? Is she still in jail?
She is still in jail. To my last updated knowledge, she has about 14 years left in her sentence. So that's where I left off
Wow.
of understanding her situation.
Yeah.
And her charges were all directly related to her aiding and kidnapping?
Yes, and also in allowing her own children. She was in the room fully conscious and pregnant while her kids and my kids were starving. So her participation in my daughter's starvation, who passed away, that is being reflected in her charges, as well as cruelty to her own children and mine.
Do you in any way in your heart feel like she also was a victim?
Yes, I definitely understand, her plight in terms of being preyed upon by her father at such an early age. And part of that helps me grasp how she was able to stay in that room and watch her children starve.
Yeah.
It took a lot of cognitive dissonance and mental, I would say, like separation, and just understanding trauma the way that I do now. She was very traumatized. So I understand that, because I've been through it.
It's amazing to hear how you could empathize through
Yeah.
all of that. Your heart is still pure, and it's still, I empathize with this person who's abusing my children, who's abusing me. That is remarkable.
I appreciate you for saying that, because it even even after being rescued, I think a lot of people, including myself and my family, we thought like, okay, we're in the clear, we can breathe, we can live now. She's free, we're free, but I was not prepared, for it. There is a battle that you fight after trauma,
For sure.
and that is the real battle.
Yeah, that work that you have to do
That's
afterwards.
right. I feel like maybe the trauma was just the battle, but then the aftermath is the actual war.
Yeah.
Right.
That's a good way to
Right.
put it.
Yes.
I
So-
think one of the biggest questions was, what type of therapies did you do after you came out of it and after you were rescued? Like, how did you become this strong woman that's sitting here and doing poetry and speaking across the nation? And what did you have to go through?
Oh, thank you. So, also several layers. I did, for the first 2 years after being rescued, I had a psychotherapist as well as a trauma-focused therapist at Grady Hospital. Shouts out to the NIA project at Grady, who I appreciate so much because y'all helped me a lot. So I worked with the NIA project, and they're amazing. My psychotherapist and her daughter, they actually were the ones that helped bring me out of catatonia. So I definitely owe a lot to them and have reformed my my opinion on the mental health industry, based on the amazing work that they helped me with.
Yeah.
But then also, seeking my own self-care practices, and finding answers and closure for myself has been very powerful. Yeah.
So
Sorry, I was just getting some of the questions
Right.
that were coming in.
you had mentioned family, and I know that is one of the questions that everybody has been asking is, what was your family doing? What was, what's your relationship with your mom? What were her thoughts after she found you during, like, has she ever expressed to you what she went through while you were gone for those 4 years?
Oh, absolutely. We've talked about it extensively, even now to this day. And I just want to send some love out to my mom because she's in the hospital right now. And Mom, I love you so much.
Love, Mom.
Love you so, so much. We're going to get through this. You won't be in there for too much longer. But it's just been so difficult. It was so many ups and downs. Coming out of catatonia and going through the healing process that I'm still going through now. Thank you. It was all over the place. 1 minute we're not talking to each other. The next minute, we're angry at each other. The next minute, I just have to see you and I have to tell you this because God put it on my heart. And so it has not been a straight and narrow path at all. It's been very tumultuous. And since I was captive for so long, there was so many ups and downs. And my mother, physically, her body was holding on to that trauma in so many ways. So now we're in a great place. We've been doing a lot of holistic healing, self-care together. And sometimes, that trauma that was pent up somewhere, it does come out.
It manifests itself.
It does. It manifests. So it doesn't go away. Those things don't go away. They are stored in your emotions and in your psyche and stuff like that. And we just try to give each other grace and work through it. But we did have some very, very tough times. Her, just in communication in general, when you talk about things of the past, sometimes people don't remember it the way that you do. And you're like, well, I remember that this happened and this happened and this happened. And they're like, it did not happen like that.
My truth.
Right, exactly. So we dealt with that a lot. We're still dealing with that. My kidnapping and captivity affected every single person in my family. Some people, and even people that are not blood related to me, but are very close to my family and were close to me. It had a positive impact on some people and an extremely devastating impact on others. And I acknowledge that, and it's hard sometimes. That's a lot of pressure for someone that is already on a journey to recover themselves as well.
Do you think your mom holds a lot of guilt? Do you think she feels guilty for any of this?
Absolutely, and we talk about that a lot, and I've done everything in my power, and I continue. It's a daily journey, but I always try to reaffirm her and let her know that the guilt that you're holding on to, if it doesn't serve you, if it doesn't serve you, I give you permission to release it.
Did she ever talk to you about what she was doing during that time? Was she did she have her team together searching for you? Was
God, yes.
Tell me what was going on, behind the scenes when your family was looking for you.
Yes, it was. She definitely had a search party, and even to the point where even deeper into my captivity, I want to say at least like 2 or 3 years into my captivity, when a lot of people were fatigued and they were like, well, we can't find her, and there were so many false flags happening, lookalikes that where people thought they had found me. It was a lot. When other people started to get fatigued and were ready to give up, she was like, I'm not going to give up. I'm not going to give up. And even when I was catatonic, a lot of people in my family were like, well, this is the state that she's in and it's not going to change. They were giving up. And my mom never gave up. She would talk to me, and the interesting thing about the catatonia is that as I came closer to coming out, I understand everything that people were saying to me. I hear them, I understand them. It's like being imprisoned in your own body after being imprisoned
In a room.
in a room,
Yeah.
right? So I could hear and understand everything that people said to me. And I still have memories of people talking to me,
But you just couldn't respond.
but I couldn't respond.
Wow.
I'm formulating the words in my brain, but my body is not in compliance to express the words.
Wow.
So I'm seeing the world just happen and go by, and I'm not being able to participate in it.
Wow.
Wow, that makes me think about people who are on like life support. And
Right.
do they hear those conversations?
Right.
Do they hear those decisions being made? That
I
has to
think
be-
they do.
I want to rewind a little bit, Aisha, and do you remember the day where you came out of catatonia, or it's like this is the first day I can remember being present and being able to respond and understanding that I'm home? Do you remember that day, that moment?
Yes.
How was that day?
It was like waking up from a deep sleep. And yeah, it was like waking up from a deep sleep. And you know how sometimes when you're sleeping, you can kind of hear stuff happening, you know, or you're even viewing your dreams. But it's like a blurry participation inside of the dream. So when I came out of the catatonia, I was in the hospital. There was they administered a psychotropic medication to me called Ativan that helped basically reconnect my consciousness so that I could come out of the catatonia. And my mother said the first thing that I said was, because I thought we were in the hospital because of my mom being sick. So I want to say that I probably woke up to pre-trauma memories. So thinking that...
Thinking you're 16, 17 years old still.
Right. Yes, exactly. So I woke up in the safety zone of my inner child, basically.
Wow.
And I was like, Mommy, are you okay? Is everything okay? We're in the hospital. And she said, baby, we're in the hospital for you. You're in the hospital. And she had to explain to me everything that happened. And it was like it triggered the memories to start trying to flood back in. She was like, you know, you were kidnapped and you were rescued because of your baby and you had a daughter. And as she's telling me all of these things, like the synapses in my brain are just like firing off and waking up. And I'm like, oh my God, where's my children? You know, where's this? Where's that?
Oh, so you're starting to remember stuff
Exactly. As she's
Wow.
briefing me,
Yeah.
you know, it's like a soldier going to war and having shell shock, which we now call PTSD. But
And how long were
having
you in
to-
this state?
7 months. 7 months of catatonia.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Wow. Wow, 7 months.
It's just like hearing Amber talk about like someone coming off of life support and just or being in life support and like being able to ingest all those thoughts and the atmospheres around you, not being able to respond, and then to hear you like, yeah, you can't respond, and then to walk us through the day where you realize, oh, I'm back,
Right.
and then you're back in the place of the 17-year-old teenager pretty much.
Right.
And then as stuff started unraveling and unfolding, and you started to realize, oh, I was kidnapped for 4 years. I was away from my mother. I was abused. I had 2 childbirths unassisted. One of my children is no longer here. How did that sit in you? How did you?
So the hardest thing was knowing that one of my children didn't make it.
Yeah.
Because I remember right before the full on, I want to call it like, there was like a ripping sensation before I went into full starvation. And I believe that before my organs started to shut down, I just remember that it felt like I thought I was dying. And, you know, I had a out of body experience where I was being called to glory, I believe. And I just remember pleading with the Creator, pleading with the ancestral realm, and, you know, all of my guides that were helping to try to facilitate this transition into the afterlife. I can't go right now because I have to be here for my daughters. I have to be here for my girls.
Yeah.
I don't know what will happen to them if I go right now. And so that was like one of my final pleas, you know, and then to wake up from all of that and find out that my wish was granted, so to speak, in terms of, you know, you got your second chance, but, you know, my daughter didn't make it. So that was really hard because I was like, in that case, I would have had rather it be me than her because she didn't get a chance to experience a full life.
Yeah.
And, you know, participate in the better part of this world. Right. So like for me, I wasn't born in a captive state. So I had, you know, beautiful memories and childhood experiences and an entire life before I experienced trauma. And like you said about, you know, even my poetry, I had been writing poetry since I was like 4 years old. And my poetry had taken me to so many beautiful places. And I had gotten a chance to interact with people in such a gorgeous way. And, you know, as a mother, you want for your children, you know, fulfillment of life, fulfillment of, you know, their experiences. You want these things for your children. And so that was the hardest part, was waking up and having to be briefed on the fact that she didn't make it. And there was actually a lot of confusion to begin with because my family did not know when all of the children were rescued, including myself, out of the room. All of the children went into the hospital together, and so they didn't know who was who. And my mother, she got a chance to see my daughter who survived one time, and she said automatically, "Oh, that's my grandbaby. I can look at her and tell she looks just like her mom when her mom was a baby." Absolutely. I can, and she, you know, of course, mothers are amazing, and you know, grandmother's intuition, mother's intuition, she could tell, like, this is my blood, you know.
Go ahead. That's a question that everybody is also asking, since we're on the subject of your children.
Yes.
We talked about it briefly in between episode 1 and 2.
Right.
But I don't think we got it on camera. People are wondering where your daughter is. We know you have another daughter.
Right.
From your current marriage.
From my marriage,
which is amazing. But they're wondering where your older daughter is that was held in captivity with you.
This is the most complicated part of my story. She has been adopted by a family that lives right outside of Gwinnett, in the
Suwanee?
Not quite Suwanee.
Brazelton?
They were in like the Loganville area.
Okay.
So now they're in the it's called the, and I'm so sorry because
you were trying to remember before because it's a weird name.
Yeah, the Alcovey Circuit.
Okay.
They're in the Alcovey Circuit, and it's like 2 counties bound together. So she lives there, and during the time of me being in catatonia and in therapy and all of those things, the state of Georgia Children's Division got involved, and she was put in the foster care system, which is so difficult because on the subject of trafficking and trauma, statistics have shown us that a lot of children who have experienced a form of trafficking or trafficking in any form have had some interaction in their past with the foster care system. So it was so scary for me when they told me that you're now having to go to juvenile court to
fight for your daughter,
fight for your child, and prove to the judge that you deserve to continue to parent her.
That's just...
And a long story short, because we will be here all day, honestly, if I could get into detail about what that court fight has been like for me. I lost the battle for my daughter. I lost my parental rights as a mother. And for some reason, the state of Georgia did not find me fit to continue to be in her life. I'm all she knew. And that was just a huge devastating blow for me and my entire family.
Absolutely.
We're still dealing with it.
Yeah.
The judge at the time, he put a no contact order after my parental rights were terminated. So I was not permitted to contact her or or anyone in my family, not permitted to make contact with her in her new adoption and her foster home.
Did they say why?
Yeah, what's the reasoning?
The judge literally said in the email that he did not believe that I was kidnapped. That was his main reason, that he did not believe that I was kidnapped. And I don't know, and even the camera, that's what he said. And to this day, I have that email. It was an email to my attorney at the time, because I had to hire my own attorney to fight this custody battle that was in juvenile court. It was just the ultimate gaslight.
Yeah.
Like, everything that you went through, it didn't happen. You can't prove or convince us otherwise. It was, like I said, just the ultimate gaslight.
It's asinine. I mean, they find you in a hotel, 59 pounds.
Right.
Your baby died from starvation.
Right.
The man and the woman are in jail. What about that says?
So the most outrageous thing is that during the custody case, every time that, because, well, for one, I want to say that I don't think anyone ever thought that I was coming out of the catatonia. So I believe that the foster placement for my daughter and her siblings, it was already 7 months is a long time.
Yeah.
So I believe that foster placement was already, put in place. It was
There's
already
also your mom, though. Right?
Exactly.
Your family.
They never gave my family a chance. My family was never given a fair shot to
take your daughter in.
Right. And we filed motion after motion. My mother filed, my grandmother filed, everyone, was in an uproar trying to be there for this family member that they did not even know existed until we were rescued. And they were never given a fair shot. They told my mother that because I was in a catatonic state, once I was released from the hospital, I was living with my mom, and she was taking care of me as my adult, caretaker. And they told my mom during the custody case at one point that, well, we can't release your granddaughter to you because you have the mother. You're taking care of her mother. So, they were like, we don't believe that she would be able to get the proper care. And it might be traumatic for my daughter to see me in a catatonic state. That's what they said initially. But you know, we were in the room all that time,
Right.
and I was catatonic. So my mother said, okay. So I went to go and live with my grandmother, and my grandmother became my new caretaker. And then my mom reapplied, and she was still denied. She was still denied. So even when I came out of catatonia,
This is absurd. It is absurd.
Even when you came out of catatonia.
and started going to court, you know, it was like a ghost entered the courtroom. There was all types of, they put me under very rigorous psychological testing. A lot of it I had to pay for myself. I had to pay for a therapist to evaluate my daughter. And they told me, you know, this was a process of over 4 years of me trying to win this court case and appeal it once it was decided. And they, you know, they just kept moving the bar, basically. At first it was like, well, you're catatonic and it might be traumatic for your daughter to see you. So now you're not catatonic, and we still think it would be traumatic for your daughter to see you. But if she happens to remember you, then maybe we'll let you have some sort of supervised visitation. But in the meantime, you have to, you know, prove that you're able to take care of her. I did everything they asked me to do. They said you need to have proof of a stable living situation. I got myself a townhouse, and that's how I met my husband, you know, later on down the line. But I had stable living situation. I had a job. I was working at TGI Fridays at the airport. You know, I actually, at one point I had 3 jobs. All I did was wake up, go to work, you know, and come home and go to get dressed for the next job and go to court. Like, that was my life. Work, home, court, maybe grocery store. and
that still wasn't enough.
It wasn't enough. They were like, well, we see that you have your job. We see that you have, you know, your stable living situation. They were like, okay, so now you have to take these parenting classes and you have to pass the parenting classes. So I'm like, okay, cool. I'm taking the parenting classes. Even my instructor was like, I don't know why they have you in these classes. You're totally capable and totally, you know, as far as I can see, a viable parent. But, you know, passed the parenting classes with flying colors. And I come, you know, basically with this report card of all of the things that I was asked to do by the judge in the court. All the boxes are checked. And
you're currently still fighting. This is an ongoing fight.
It is.
People are asking in the chat, how can the public help in any way?
Yes, I need you guys' help. I appreciate you guys' help, and I want you guys' help. I want to just raise the biggest shout, you know, to the world and to the nation, if possible, to reconsider. You know, I've been researching this ever since my rights were terminated. And in the state of Georgia, and in 2018, there were a lot of people, and I don't know these people personally, but there were a lot of people who served prison sentences, and they were forgiven by the state. And some of the things that they did were like child abuse and rape and really harsh and violent crimes. So the state can and the governor can pardon you for harsh and violent crimes. But to my knowledge, and as per my research as of yet, I have not found anywhere where they will pardon parental rights that were terminated erroneously, or the situation or the circumstances have changed. And so that's what I'm hoping to if I have to go to Congress, if I have to go to the nation, and to bring this issue up, I believe there should be a way to pardon parents whose parental rights were terminated. That should exist. If we can pardon hardened criminals who have taken people's lives and done things like that, I think it's not much to ask.
Absolutely.
Well, one of the things that was so, I don't want to give my opinion, but shocking to me is you said that the family that has her,
Mm-hmm.
you felt that they were already exploiting her.
Right.
Will you explain that to our audience?
Right. So, and this is so hard, because I don't believe they ever got the family that has adopted her. I don't believe they ever got the full story.
Mm-hmm.
They never got the full story. During my
Well, hopefully they will get the full story now.
Yes, hopefully now. And the
Yes.
reason why I try to tell my story every chance I get, and try to reach as many people as I can, because for one, I don't want my daughter to try to come and look for me and end up being trafficked. It's my worst nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
People can pretend to be something that they're not.
Yeah.
And she's in a predominantly white environment, right? So
Is the family white too?
yes, they are. And it's when you're a black child, and I've spoken with other children who are black, who were raised in a foster care setting, and or some of them who actually identify as survivors of the foster care system,
Yeah.
and were raised outside of their race, and they've let me know like a lot of the challenges that they faced being outside of their culture, outside of their race's protection, bubble of protection.
Yes.
And they've expressed that, they did dangerous things to try to involve themselves with black culture. They never stopped wanting to know, who is my family? Where did I come from? How did I end up here? And trying to reconnect to the culture, this culture that we all love so much, of all races, not just black people, but this culture is a part of her. It belongs to her. She has a right to it. But it's so difficult for her to be forced to give that up before she was even able to have her own voice of whether she wanted to be in it or not.
How old is she now?
She is now 13.
But who did you say that her adoptive father, you don't have to say his name, but
Right.
who he was and why you felt like he was exploiting?
So this is so difficult because he is in a very powerful position. He is now a judge. He's a superior court judge. At the time that he adopted my daughter, he was a trust and estate attorney. Right. And so that's a story for another day, of course. But, just if I may, the privilege of being in a position of already having familiarity with the courts and the court system.
Yeah.
And here I am, a little black girl
Trying to get your daughter.
trying to get my daughter. Never had a run-in with the law until I was rescued and had to fight for my daughter in court. I had never been the subject of a legal conversation until this fight that I was wholly unprepared for. And, because of where I was coming from, I did not possess the privilege or the ability to make a case for my daughter that would have allowed her to be raised in a safe environment, connected to her family and knowing who she was.
And that she has a sibling.
That she has a sibling.
Yes.
Her, it's so hard because my daughter Abigail is so amazing.
How
So
old is she?
amazing. She's 6 years old.
Okay.
She reminds me so much of her older sister. Just so much. Oh gosh. Abigail longs for a big sister and just a sibling in general. She's not an only child because, you know, I did inherit my bonus son from my marriage. But he's an adult, you know, so that's a huge age gap, right? He first came into our family or re-entered our family at 14, and she was, you know, just a baby.
Yeah.
And so, you know, a 14-year-old boy and a 1-year-old baby, you know, they're interested in two totally different things.
Yeah, of course.
So for her, she probably feels like an only child. And she, you know, I've had to fill in the part of her big sister, but I've always told her, you have a big sister and she's amazing. And I'm sure, you know, that when you all meet each other for the first time, it's going to be love at first sight.
Yeah.
Yes. So, you know, for now, I'm the one that has to play Barbie dolls with Abigail.
Are you currently under the order where you can't contact?
Yes.
And has there been times where you just felt like driving by her school or finding their address and just driving up and just like, you know what I mean? Like imagining just reconnecting with her.
Yes.
Yeah.
And there are times that I have.
Yeah.
I have. I'm driving around aimlessly in this county that I know she's here somewhere.
Yeah.
But I just can't touch her, you know. I just can't sit down with her, you know.
We're going to do everything in our power to get this part of the story to all the people that we know. Sean King, Tamika Mallory, Until Freedom, my son. Like, we're going to get the people involved to make sure we can assist in any way that we can for you to be reconnected with your daughter.
Yes, because it's such volatile territory, you know. I'm not dealing with a situation where it's just an issue of communication. I've actually, through a mutual family friend, was able to reach out to the adoptive family and request, you know, can we just sit down for coffee, or can we just exchange emails and speak to each other over email? Can I give you, you know, my version of the story? Because when I was in juvenile court, they would pack up the kidnapper's daughter in shackles every single case and drive her to the juvenile court, sit her at the same table with me.
What?
Yes. And they relied a lot on her version and testimony of the situation, as well as her father. They were using her father's testimony and her testimony to judge whether or not I should be allowed in my own daughter's life. And they took a child off of the planet from me and from my loving care. Why they were ever even allowed to weigh in, I do not understand. And maybe a lawyer can explain it to me. But all the lawyers that I've dealt with up until this point, they said that is highly irregular and we've never seen anything like that happen, but yet it happened. So it was so difficult to be sitting at the table. We were this far apart where you are, Ernestine, every single time.
My goodness.
And so, you know, it's hard to, the judge is asking you questions about yourself and you're really in a tunnel of your own pain, because I just wanted to lean across the table and say, why didn't you feed my baby? Why didn't you feed her? Why did you let her die? You know, I'm trying to focus, you know, on the court case, but
it's hard.
It's hard. It's hard. You have to be in two places at once. You have to do the impossible. You have to explain a miracle, you know, how you came out of catatonia, and people think that, well, you could go back at any minute. And I'm like, I'm still here, you know. And I still love my daughter.
Yeah, absolutely.
I still love my daughter, and I believe she deserves to know her mother. She deserves to know her sister. She deserves to have her full story, you know.
Well, when was the last time that you've seen her? Was it the day you all were rescued?
Yeah.
Or maybe before, because I remember you were...
It was before.
So you haven't seen her since then. Have you seen a picture of her or anything?
When I did make contact through a mutual family friend, the adoptive family, they sent the family friend a few photos, and those are what I have in my house. She was like 7 or 8 years old.
That's quite some time ago.
Right.
Are you able to, I'm wondering, I mean, I know this is probably talk about it more offline, because I just feel like I just want to pull up to the house, you know what I mean? Like, does she have social media? Do you know what she looks like currently?
I know what she looks like currently,
Okay.
because the exploitation part that we were talking about, her adoptive father used her and her siblings, or recruited her and her siblings, because I don't know the nature of, I'm not there, you know, but he recruited her and her siblings to help him win his campaign as a judge. So on social media, there are interviews that she did with him.
Yeah.
And this is the first time I was able to, this is how I hear my daughter's voice.
Wow.
You know,
Yeah.
I go on the social media page and I just watch the video over and over again. She probably don't sound the same as she do in the video, but that's...
Do you think that she knows your story and she knows you exist and she sees the headlines and has read the news articles at all?
I don't think so. I mean, maybe now that she's older, now that she's 13, you know, maybe they've begun to try to expose her a little more. But at the time that I made contact with the family friend, the adoptive father said that they don't, I don't know if she even knows that I'm alive. I don't even know if she knows that I exist. He said, you know, that was a traumatic time in her life. This is what he's telling the family friend. That was a traumatic time in her life, and we are therapeutic foster parents, and our goal is to not, you know, bring those memories of trauma back up into the child's life, which every therapist, you know, that understands and knows this, that trauma is in your body.
Yeah.
It's in your blood. It's in your DNA. It's there, you know.
Yeah.
So not acknowledging it, I believe, is more harmful than acknowledging it. Now, I'm not saying that, you know, we have to explain to a 6, 7, 8, 9-year-old, you know, your mother was kidnapped and raped and abused and starved, you know, not saying that by any means. But just helping her understand, you know, from what I was told, he's been telling her that your mother was not in a position to take care of you, and you ended up here with us. And that was the case while I was catatonic. And that was the case while, you know, I was getting my life together.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that was not the case as I began to, you know, rebuild my life. And that's not the case now. You know, I'm more than capable, financially stable, and able to take care of her, able to be in her life, or at least let her know that, you know, I'm here and I never gave up on you. Like my mom never gave up on me. And I never had a day where I didn't want her to exist, even though the circumstances were as they were. Never had a day where I didn't want to be her mother. I've always loved her, and always wanted to be there for her. And I know she doesn't know that, because I don't have any proof that they have been telling her that. And if they have been telling her that, by the grace of God, I know she's going to want to find me.
Yeah.
And if she wants to find me, I want her to be able to find the actual me, and not someone who is a predator out there, because they're out there, and I know for a fact, you know, I want her to be delivered safely, you know, on her path.
Well, what we have now, you know, this day and age, which is such a blessing, is social media.
Right.
Our platforms like this. So when she gets to that age where she can reach out to you,
Yeah.
you know, she sees this. She's
Right.
got my Instagram. She's got her Instagram. There are so many ways, and I think we have to just remember that God is always in control.
Yes.
And that we go before him and we lay out our prayers and our tribulations, and we give that burden to him and trust that he can do all things, that nothing is impossible. And I'm going to be standing with you in prayer. I'm sure this audience will be standing with you in prayer, and for sure Ernestine. And you know, I just want you to just keep that in mind, that nothing is impossible with God. Nothing. And I wanted to just touch on really quickly, because what triggered in my mind where you were saying that her adoptive father was saying that he wanted her to not remember those traumatic experiences. Did you tell me before that her siblings out of this are with her? Are they
Yes,
were with her?
they
Currently with her?
Yes. So
just so we explain to the audience, these are the children that came from the man who kidnapped you, sexually abused you. He did the same to his daughter and got her pregnant, and she had 2 children.
right.
So these 2 children are currently with your daughter?
Yes. They sent all of the children to the same foster home and the same adoptive family. So what the state calls, you know, keeping the children together, because they're siblings, but they're siblings and bonded through trauma, right? And so
If that's not a reminder of trauma every day, I don't know what is.
very, very valid point, you know, which is it's been so difficult to deal with this, and that's why I'm so grateful that you guys have me here. That
And they
everybody
likely have no clue of this trauma bond.
Well, they were there, you know, they experienced it. So is this just this trauma is shut up in their bones, and they have this story that they all went through, and these their family, you know, me as you know, I was like the main caretaker, because I was basically the mother, you know, of all of the kids, even the ones that weren't mine.
Well, how old were they though
Yeah.
when they all got? Because I'm sure they were small enough. That do you think that maybe they don't even remember the type?
I'm not sure, you know. I think it's very possible. I still have memories from when I was 3 years old. And my
Your daughter was 3.
yes,
The
when
other
we
two?
were rescued.
When you were
When we were rescued.
How old were
yeah.
the other 2?
Also, 2 3-year-olds, my daughter and
3-year-olds.
and the son, and then the oldest baby, she was 5, going on 6 years old
When they were rescued.
when they were rescued.
She
Yes,
remembers.
they
She
remember.
remembers for
You know,
sure.
it's very possible that they remember, and they're all together in the same adoptive family where they can't talk about
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
we saw and
Wow.
what we went through.
It's heartbreaking.
Yeah. This is yeah. Again, I can't stress enough how like we are going to do whatever we can to pull our contacts together to help you on this case, because it's the justice system failed you too many times as it pertains to your entire story, but specifically your children who are now having to just take this hit unwillingly.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
we're definitely going to help you as much as we can and pull resources together for you. And I know our audiences, people are in the chat, people are willing to help. But I do want to switch gears a little bit. One big question on YouTube was, how are you? You're happily married now. And
Yes.
You have your family that you've been able to build on your own.
Yes.
How were you mentally able to trust men and find love and get past the trauma of that 4 years and find a husband?
That's a great question. Well, I think that, I have to say, well, I want to go rewind back just a little bit to say, in terms of being able to help me with my daughter, now that she's 13, in the state of Georgia, when you're 14, you can apply for emancipation.
Oh.
And so she can request to her caseworker, her foster care caseworker, and to the state to have some kind of contact or visitation with me when she turns 14. And so she's 13 now, and my goal is to just try to reach her by any means necessary through the wonderful web and however possible, so that she knows that I'm alive, I exist, I love her, and I want to be a part of her life. And I know it'll be like surgery, because there's so many shards of glass and broken pieces and unanswered questions. This is years and years, so I understand that, and I know it'll be a very painstaking process that I would take very seriously and with grace. And that leads me to talk about my husband.
Before you do that, I'm sorry.
Sure.
Is it a legal issue for us to say her name? Because I'm just thinking, what if one of her friends sees this and they share it with her? Can we not say her name? Or I don't want to cause any issues,
I don't know.
Okay,
I don't know.
Can we say his name, the judge?
He's retired now, so I believe we can.
Okay, I just don't. My biggest thing is I don't want to cause anything that would make her case worse.
Right.
She has a no contact.
Right.
So I don't know if they would think that this is a way of her trying to contact her. So
yeah, and also, yes, it brings back to my memory, while I was fighting the juvenile court case, the judge did say, because news interviews and different stations were interviewing me, and I was crying out then, just as I am now, and the judge did specifically say one day in court, you cannot show a picture of her, you cannot say her name.
Wow.
And it would reflect badly on your case. So it was, when they say it's a gag order, like, it really does feel like a gag is being placed on you.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's move on to a little bit happier time in your life. And
right. So being able to trust men.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's kind of like flying. You don't know that you're doing it until you're doing it, because I definitely came, out of catatonia, very guarded, very much in my inner child needed so much, so was not thinking about relationships or love or marriage or anything like that. I just knew that, my daughter, who did survive, needs me. And so I was really focused on that, and I just kind of ran into my husband along the way, because you really just can't do it alone. You can't do it alone, and I take my hat off to all the single mothers, including my mother, because I couldn't do it. If I had to, I know I would, rise to the occasion, as I have many times in my life. But by choice, being a single mother was nothing that I specifically wanted for myself or for my family. I believe it's so important to have that balance of both parents in the child's life. There's things that a mother can teach that a father can, and things that a father can teach that a mother can't. And so the way I met my husband is I was shopping for furniture, and I was shopping with my mom, and she was like, well, I want to go to this store. Now, mind you, we had been shopping for weeks, weeks of shopping and days not able to really find anything that was really speaking to me, or within my budget, just all of the challenges. And then also, having to get back and forth to work. So I was like, Mom, I'm so tired. Can we please go to this last store? And then I'm ready to go home and clock out, and if they don't have anything in the store, then that's a wrap, for now. And we go into the store, and the store belonged to my husband's father, and his sister was at the register, and we just got to talking.
Mm-hmm.
And my now husband, he wasn't my husband at the time, but he walked in. He worked for the store, so he had come back from some deliveries, and it was just something about this person that I wanted to know more about him. His energy, it felt very safe. Mm-hmm. It felt very safe and protective, which is, and I was, that was my discernment letting me know that, this is the person that you'll go into battle with, mm-hmm. For the next part of, this journey.
Yeah.
And I don't regret, ever walking into that store. Yeah. Even though it was almost like pulling teeth. I was like, man, I really just want to go home. Mm-hmm. And friends and family know the story. I go into detail with them, but I know we are on a time crunch. But if I had left when I was ready to leave, because my mom is a talker. Okay. Yeah. She will talk. And I was there because we were still talking, mainly her. But if I had left, I would not have ever met him. And, he's a prior service Marine, so he knows what it's like to go to actual war, right? Wow. So, he understands, my trauma. He understands, and he's also experienced catatonia briefly, so we share a lot of things, and some things we are, completely opposite on. One of those things was in terms of protection, and this is the part that mm-hmm. I realized was a negotiable, after our last episode aired. He since he's been to war, he knows and understands the importance of Second Amendment rights, and knowing how to protect yourself. Mm-hmm. And that's something that I can say that I didn't grow up with a good concept on, how to protect yourself. And I think a lot of the vulnerability of how I was even able to get kidnapped in the first place is because, these people from outside of my family came into my life and saw that there is no shield, there is no wall, no covering, and there, the covering that was there, it was to my mother's best abilities, but she was dealing with very difficult health issues. She was on dialysis already by the time that if she hadn't already started, she was just getting ready to go on dialysis. Mm-hmm. And so, she was protecting us the best way that she could, but it was not, she wasn't able to give her full self, which is understandable. Now that I'm experiencing the same thing, I couldn't imagine having to go through dialysis while my daughter is kidnapped and missing. Is
how integral has your husband been in supporting you mentally through all this?
Very, very integral. He doesn't allow me to give up every day. There's been some days where I'm just like, well, today has been one of them. Like I said, it's always, it's a everyday journey.
Yeah.
I was feeling really, really worried, because there are still legal ramifications that are going on with this case right now. The adoptive family has begun a lawsuit against the hotel where we were held captive, on behalf of the children. And this also goes into why it feels and looks like exploitation to me, because they're pursuing this lawsuit on behalf of the children, but what's happening is that the hotel is trying to drag me into the lawsuit as well. So there's active legal issues that I'm still fighting.
They don't
even now in
they won't even
2023
meet you for a coffee date or exchange emails, but they want to
Sue.
pursue a lawsuit on behalf of your child.
Right. And there's nothing stopping my daughter from pursuing the lawsuit on her own when she becomes of age. She has until she's 21 to seek, legal recompense against the hotel. And I believe that that's something that they should give her the freedom to decide if she wants to do that on her own.
Absolutely.
And when she's ready to fully understand, because I don't even know if she knows, I don't know to what extent she knows what happened, why it happened, how it happened. And the way that they went about getting involved in this lawsuit was very, very sneaky, because when they told me that they didn't feel comfortable exchanging emails with me, talking to me over the phone, they went quiet for a long time, and I didn't hear anything back from them. And then all of a sudden, my lawyer, who helped me, when my lawsuit, contacted me and said the adoptive family wants to hire us, who already have won a case on your behalf, to fight on the children's behalf.
Oh my goodness.
Who did you sue?
I sued the hotel.
You sued the hotel?
Yes.
Okay.
And you won that suit.
Yes. So I should say, while I was catatonic, my mom pursued legal action. So when I came out of the catatonia, I was already in 3 court cases. And that's why I say I believe my daughter should have the choice to decide on her own, because that was not something that I got to decide. I had to fight 3 court cases.
Yeah.
And I just got a chance to, formulate sentences properly, right?
Yeah.
So it was extremely stressful, and my body now is dealing with the aftermath of all of that prolonged stress and trauma and starvation, and having to, every time you go to court, you have to hear, see, and feel all of the things that you experienced in captivity all over again. Just the reminding, being re-pulled back, it's a lot. It's a lot. And I don't think that anybody should be
subject to relive that unwillingly,
unless they're ready.
Yeah.
And unless they're able to handle it.
The chat just wanted to sum it all up. You sued the hotel.
Yes.
People want to know about the psych ward and the hospital.
I was already in the 3 cases, and at one point I was just like, I have to laser focus in on trying to win my juvenile court case, because that was what mattered most. So I didn't get a chance to pursue legal action against the psych ward or the hospital for deepening the catatonia when they with the medical malpractice that I experienced. I had to take care of the fire closest to home.
Do you plan to, or is it time to it? Because how many years ago was this all now?
I'm not sure I think I could be past that.
You're 21, right? And you're 30.
Statute of limitations.
Right. Yeah. So I could be past that statute of limitations. And, you know, it was just a lot at the time. So I don't regret trying to focus solely on the juvenile case.
Absolutely.
But, I never in a million years thought that I would have lost it. Every lawyer that I worked with and contacted, they all said, well, first of all, we never heard of a case where a human trafficking victim has to fight for custody. Because, at the time that I was rescued, I think it was shortly after the 3 women in Ohio were rescued, and they had several children in their captivity, and everybody went home with their kids. And so they were like, this is a little baffling, because we're not used to this. Usually a victim is treated like a victim, but in this case I was a victim being treated like a criminal. Yeah. Good. The entire time, and even still now to this day, because the hotel that is being sued wants to pull me into the suit, and there's something that happened during my lawsuit that put me in a place where they made me responsible for 1% of my own kidnapping. And legally, I don't understand how that works, but it's such to the point that the hotel is able to try to name me as a second party in the lawsuit. So many civil rights violations.
So many violations after violation. This thing is just so layered.
Wow. Yeah.
But the good thing about it is, like, the fact I'm amazed at you, like, when you speak, because you're so in tune with what happened to you, and in tune with where you are now, and in tune with where you're going, and you can articulate it very certainly.
Thank you.
And it's like, wow, you are a true soldier.
Thank you.
Sure.
Wow.
I do feel like I'm lacing up my boots every day to get out the door.
Yeah.
And you live on a beautiful farm now, right?
Yes.
And you grow all your own food and all that good stuff.
Well, we're working on it.
on
I've
that
grown some cucumbers and
Right.
some sugar snap peas.
But I heard you had did you have like horses or something on your
Yes,
farm?
I have a horse farm. I work on the horse farm. I live, not too far away, about 15 minutes away from the farm.
Okay.
So the farm is a tribute to my daughter.
Yes.
We're called Sunchild Farms.
Oh, nice.
And, all of my daughters, when they were born, I gave them a different flower, that reminded me of them, that just was put on my heart. And this farm, I was actually there to help my aunt, who runs an amazing program where she helps at-risk youth, and she was a huge part of my recovery as well. She runs an amazing equine assisted horse program for children that are coming out of the juvenile justice system.
That's awesome.
Yes,
Yeah.
and experiencing the juvenile justice system. And so we were there for her. But I just saw all of the flowers of my daughters, and this land, it just spoke to me and just told me that this is important. This is a part of your family legacy. And that's how we ended up with the farm.
Because I was going to ask you, I think about the fears you may have every day, looking over your shoulder or someone, and for me, I would want to go live on a farm. Get away from
Absolutely. Yes.
And
that is a huge part of my healing process. And I do healing retreats with women and survivors of sexual trauma on property. Everyone says, so we're behind a gate, where we have, just this piece of heaven, that it's not quite in the country. Is 35 minutes outside of the city, but it feels like
Feels
we're
like
like
the country, right?
It feels like we're in like Alabama or something
Yeah.
in the rural area, because we're gated in and we have a beautiful sunflower on the gate. And so many women have told me, like, when those gates opened up, and I drove my car in, I just felt, this weight lifted off of me. Yes.
We and Amber are going to have to come by.
Absolutely. You do.
Yes.
And then I just had one. I mean, I know we're going to wrap up soon. I just had a question, just as a mom, with your current daughter. Do you find yourself being overprotective? Do you find yourself
that was one of
just
our biggest questions.
in fear of this happening to her? I mean, just hearing your story and being a mom, I fear. You know what I mean?
Right.
I'm like, and God has not given us the spirit of fear.
Fear,
But
right.
of power, love, and a sound mind. We are also human, so it is something that has to be in the back of your mind. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes. So I'll try to say, some probably would consider it overprotective, but I just want to say I'm very vigilant as a mother. So Abigail is we're in our second year of homeschool, and I love it so much. I know she loves it so much. And a huge part of my decision to homeschool was, of course, because of the pandemic. That's what, put it in my mind. And I realized, like, during the pandemic, I realized, wow, I was not getting a lot of time with my own daughter.
Yeah.
And especially, after, things that have happened in my past. And I just got a little spoiled during lockdown. And I was like, she's an awesome girl and she's so intelligent. And, just being able to, be there for her, and watching her mind, grow and blossom, and being able to, contribute to her learning has been so awesome. So, if homeschooling on the farm,
You're like, if that's overprotective,
then maybe I fit the bill. But,
And rightfully so.
that's awesome.
Yes.
Rightfully so.
But she Abigail is she is very outgoing and I never had to worry about, a lot of times people say with homeschool children, you got to worry about their socialization with other kids and will they be able to interact. That's never been Abby's problem.
Yeah.
Never.
I
No.
homeschool for the last couple
Right.
years.
Yes.
I
Yes.
homeschool, which I don't know.
Right. Look, that's another episode.
Well, listen, Aisha, we're just so grateful that you came back and you were
Yes,
willing to
thank
answer
you.
some of the audience questions. I just wanted to give a quick recap for those who may be just joining, or if you kind of missed some things. Aisha Sweeting here, who was kidnapped at the age of 17 and held captive for 4 years by a cult member.
Right.
By a cult member, and had to have 2 unassisted births in a extended stay hotel. Was rescued, and was the word. What's the word that you were in for 7 months?
Catatonic.
She was catatonic for 7 months.
Survived catatonia.
She survived catatonia. 7 months coming out of that, you finally reconnected with your mother.
Yes.
And your family. The boy's father who kidnapped you is serving a life sentence in prison,
Right.
but will possibly be up for parole in 30 years.
Right.
The son who was aided him, whether willingly or unwillingly, we don't know, is out there somewhere. He never was taken into custody.
Correct.
The daughter who also aided in this act is in prison as well,
Right.
serving a life sentence. Her children, who were also birthed in that extended stay, along with your child who was birthed in that extended stay, are now adopted by the same family living here somewhere in Georgia.
Yes.
You have yet to have any contact with your child. You are currently fighting for your child, and we're going to help you fight for your child.
Thank you.
She is remarried. She has another child, Abigail.
Yes.
She lives on a homestead, farmland.
Yes.
And you are living. You are truly living, and she is sharing her testimony.
Yes.
And we're grateful here at It's Negotiable Podcast that she decided to share with us, of all people.
Absolutely.
And you're just living your life.
Absolutely.
And you're doing it with joy in your heart.
Yes.
You have a joyous spirit.
do.
Thank you.
You are joyous. Your smile is so bright. You have a
Thank
light
you.
about you, and you have such a big offering. You're so able and willing to offer your story and offer your energy.
Yes.
And again,
And this
guys,
is just a fraction of it.
and this is
because
a fraction of it because
when-
we really could sit here all day.
And when my daughter and I are reunited, that piece that we both are missing,
Yes.
that even, you know, her sister is missing, that piece of my family
Yes.
finally being returned back, I will be able to give so much more to the world, so
Yes.
much more,
Yes.
you know. So you
We
guys,
are standing in agreement with
appreciate
that
y'all
with
help.
you. Absolutely. And we're standing in prayer and agreement. And you also sued the hotel, won that lawsuit.
Yes,
And possibly more lawsuits to come, depending on where this thing goes.
right.
Again, make sure you are following her on Instagram and social media platforms at Ayasia Sweeting. You're just amazing.
Thank
It's
you.
like to sit here and just for you to even through the tears to sit here with so much poise and etiquette and articulation through your tears, through your pain, and still say, no, this is what happened to me, and I'm willing to give it. That's just you're called.
Yes.
You're called.
I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Chosen.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. So we thank you all for tuning in with us on Instagram, Amber's Instagram, my Instagram, Facebook. Thank you for tuning in. Make sure you are subscribed to It's Negotiable podcast on all platforms. Make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube, Apple, Spotify. Make sure you are following Ayasia and staying in tapped in to see how we can continue to support her on her journey, helping her fight to get her daughter back,
Yes.
or at least to have visitation or some type of connectivity.
Right.
Make sure you are tapped in and stay in the loop. This has been a phenomenal episode of It's Negotiable
Yes.
podcast.
Yes.
Amber, you want
Yes.
to say anything?
No, I just want to say thank you.
Thank
you.
for gracing us with your presence.
Thank you,
and your
guys.
story. Thank you.
I
Again,
appreciate
thank
you
you,
all.
Jewel.
And thank you
Thanks,
all
Jewel.
for opening up your platform to allow me to come and speak. And
Absolutely. You're welcome
and
back
the
anytime.
support.
You are in our
Yes.
prayers.
Thank
you. Okay. Thank you all.
Awesome. Thank you all.
Have a great day.
Thank you, King Gene.